Okay.
I didn't even see that one.
Let's call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of Bella Vista City Council for February 26, 2024. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please.
Council members Snow. Here. Hughes.
Here.
Wozniak.
Here.
Wilms.
Here.
Fowler.
Here.
Hanchel.
Here.
Mayor Flynn.
Thank you. The first topic is citizen input. Per the rules, there's a 3-minute per person time limit to address the council on any topic of that person's choosing. First one on the list is Tim Bashar of 40 Knighton Drive.
Good evening. After 31 years, this is the first time I've been in front of City Council, so it's an honor to be here tonight. I'm here to bring about some awareness about the litter problem that we have along 71B. And the history, I'll just go through the history first and then kind of work backwards into what I have proposed in the future. Positively Bella Vista Facebook group created the 6 and 60 as a way for the community to gather together for one common goal: clean the highway of litter in a quick, fun, and creative way. There have been 5 events. This year will be the 6th, with an average volunteer number of 120. This year, the interest has tripled. In my opinion, in my 31 years of driving and literally 1.5 million miles through my driving a taxi the last 12 years in Northwest Arkansas, it's in my opinion litter happens in 3 ways. Truck bed trash flies out while driving, landscape trucks and trailers shrink-wrapped loads get loose, and Republic garbage trucks lose their garbage. I'm not blaming anybody, it's just what I've observed over the last several years. One echoed comment in the weeks following the 6 and 60 event is that the highway looks like we've never been out there weeks later, which leads me to this proposal. Is to incentivize businesses along 71B, Bella Vista Way, to be litter aware by proposing fun, positive publicity through local and social media pages and city recognition when they commit to clean their storefront of litter consistently. First is a few commitments by the city. One is to designate April Litter Awareness Month. 2, police will be hyper aware of potential litter problems and notify public this month. Official City of Bella Vista certificate to participating businesses. And a picture of Mayor Flynn, council members, staff, and business owners or managers. A couple of the commitments by the businesses that will be twofold. 15 to 30 minute per month commitment to clean their storefront along 71B. Secondly, take a pic, post on social media, and CC the city. The timeline for these events are as follows. The last Saturday in March has always been the event for the 6 and 60, so this year it falls on March 30th. So Saturday, March 30th, the annual 6 and 60 Highway 71B litter pickup. And then hopefully Mayor Flynn will be there like you were last year and in years past before that to announce April as Litter Awareness Month at the gathering. So, and in closing, even though 71B is a state highway, it runs right through the middle of Bella Vista. It is really the first or last impression passers-by get as they travel north or south. Let's live up to our city's name and make Bella Vista the pride and joy of Northwest Arkansas. Thanks.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Chris Nelson of 1 Harrington Drive.
Good evening. I'm here to express concern regarding the optics of the proposed Bella Vista election legislation that's on the agenda for tonight, which requires an additional financial disclosure. One of the biggest reasons is due to the person who's introducing it and how they've used information during the last election to smear political candidates with unfounded conspiracy theories. The discussions that took place during the mayoral race and the conspiracy theories spread during work sessions were appalling enough when they happened, but I was equally appalled last Tuesday when Councilman Fowler once again brought up baseless accusations and conspiracy theories about people who made legal contributions to a political candidate. Additionally, Councilman Fowler is up for re-election this year, so I find it equally concerning that this is being proposed by him, as he stands to benefit from this should it be implemented. My supporting rationale for this assessment is that when he spoke during the work session, he also asserted leveraging social media to change the complexion of an election. The common sense approach would be to work with the Benton County Election Commission and state representatives to change election law for Arkansas if this is truly for the public good. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kelly Strain of 4 Mary Ann Lane.
How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Good. I live on number 4, Mary Ann Lane, and they repaired our street about 2.5 years ago, or semi-repaired it. I think they just sprayed a coat of whatever they put over the asphalt, patched a little bit, and then sprayed over that. It's already tore up again, and it's been tore up for probably a year. It's a nuisance. You know, your cars are expensive these days, man, and when it hits that pothole, even though you try to avoid it, sometimes you just don't see it. And I was wondering what we have to do to get that repaired. I don't recall what I did last time. I might have called city street repair or something, made complaint a couple times, and then they came out and did it maybe a half a year later. Really like to get that done. And another thing, I'm wondering, like, I haven't been here in a while. Looks like there's some new faces here. Welcome, I hope. Looks like there's some old faces here, which is kind of sad. And I don't know any of you, really. I know Mr. Snow, and I don't even know if I'd like to know you guys, honestly. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a resident of Bella Vista, and the reason why I came here is because I can't stand looking at you people, most of you. I don't know the new people, so you're going to have to excuse me. And I'm not one to hold my tongue. I'm just going to say what I feel. I think you're a disgrace to our community. You do no service that I've seen that's positive for the community as a whole. Now, you might do stuff that's on your agenda that's positive for you, or the outcome might be good for you, but what do you do for the community? You guys should really take a look at Mr. Snow and maybe find out what he does for our community and maybe follow suit. It's not that hard. You guys don't... I don't know, I don't want to get foul, but like stand up and take accountability, man. Who is accountable here for your actions? Can you just do whatever you want? I don't know how you run business here. It seems pretty shisty. I'm not very book smart. I'm pretty street smart. So if someone would like to take the time to explain to me how you're held accountable, I'd love to know. And what action a person can do to keep you accountable, I'd really like to know. My phone number's on the sheet. I don't know if I'm going to hang out, but my number is 760-802-3775. I'm available anytime if you want to shoot me straight and tell me what it's really like. I'd like to hear it, because I don't think some of you people are held accountable. So, yeah. Look at Mr. Snow. Take a good look at Mr. Snow and how he does his business and how he treats people and how he's held accountable. Yeah, I heard it. That'd be a good start.
Thank you. Next person is Christian Henning of 7 Longview Lane.
Good evening. I'm going to Mainly here to talk about G, H, and I on the agenda, so the resolutions that Mr. Fowler presented. To very clearly put it, I guess the easiest way, I think G, that's the ordinance, I think that should be tabled indefinitely. I don't think it's something the city should be dabbling in. H, I think it's a great idea. Work with the state, like Chris was saying, work with the county. Handle it on that end, because it is, we've, uh-oh, getting a little excited there. You guys have all ran for office. I know most of you know I have too. I think we can all agree those filing forms should be done before early voting starts, but to attach it to anything saying, oh, out of state or out of city funds, anything like that. I've got family members that live in Bentonville. I live on the edge of Bella Vista, 2 houses away. They live in county territory. If they gave me money, and we're going off that I resolution, where it's saying, you know, be wary of out-of-city funds, they're right down the street. So now I have to go and defend myself and say, oh, well, you know, they're just my neighbor, I promise. They're not trying to get, you know, guns legalized here, even though they like to shoot off guns all the time. But work with the city, work with the county, work with the state. Don't try to legislate it all here. And again, I don't think it's worthwhile to really paint a target on people who are getting money from people who don't live in the city. Most everyone who's doing that, it's family members, it's friends. If it is from political action committees, we're not dumping millions of dollars into the city. It's still a pretty significant amount, but you can tell pretty easily if there's foul intent. And last election, I don't think there was any foul intent. Just people supporting who they want to support and throwing money behind it. And if that's how our politics are based, and if we're going to start getting mad at people for throwing their money behind things, do it for something else. Not everyone can finance their own campaigns. People need money, and if you are fortunate enough to finance your own campaigns, that's fantastic. But when you start alienating people and you start making it seem like, oh, these people are bad because they're taking money from people who don't, you know, haven't been in Bella Vista for 30, 40 years, you're going to discourage people from running, and we're going to get the same people over and over and over. We're going to have former councilmen running again, former representatives running for city council, which is all fine and dandy, but we're getting younger. We're having more young people move in. If we want to keep the same people around, why even have elections? You guys just stay up there, spend your own money. So don't fight against all that stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ellen Creekbaum of 50 Churchill Drive.
Voters need and want full information, not only about the candidates, but who is funding their campaigns. Local, state, national, everybody's wanting to know more. So unfortunately, it's not just the candidate we're voting for, but we're also voting for who that candidate may or may not be beholden to because of political contributions. It takes money to run campaigns, even in Bella Vista. Nothing gets changed until somebody stands up and says something. Thank you, Doug, Mr. Fowler. I support Councilman Fowler and the proposed ordinance and the 2 resolutions that are on the agenda. All information must be reported, recorded, and available for review by voters prior to any first vote being cast. Hopefully, this information is compiled by somebody who's impartial and reliable. Requiring all information before early voting should have been a part of the change when we started early voting. Who knew that that wasn't a part of the change until I found this out? Voters need to be vigilant. They need to follow the money, they need to follow how people vote, and they need to know who they are putting into office. And they need to know how those people have supported or not supported their constituents. All money must be reported. Even if you get a dime from your grandson, or $10,000 from somebody who wants to influence how Bella Vista goes forward in this corridor. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Randy Murray of 2551 Forest Hills.
Hi. Same thing. I'm here to talk about G, H, and I. I think H is actually a great idea. If you want to change something, that's the way to do it. The U.S. Constitution gives the powers to the states for the elections. That's how it's set forth. I mean, the reason I believe that the state doesn't have a law specifically prohibiting you from doing this is because the U.S. Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, gives that powers to the states. And so the proper way to go about doing this is H. It's the way you keep the city from getting sued. It's the way you keep the state from having to go in and give you guys another black eye for doing stuff that's not constitutional. It's the, I believe Jason said the advice from the municipal league and for the attorney was don't touch this, and you know, said what he said about this is an opportunity for discovery. I think H is a great idea. If you want to change it, change it. There's a legal way to set forth to do it. There's also another way to do it if the state doesn't give you what you want, which is we become partisan. If you become partisan, you have to run in the primary. And if the goal of this really is to educate people, there's no better way to educate them than who do they affiliate with? What party do you belong to? You know, you guys said in the work session that we're run as independents. We don't run as independents. If we ran as independents, there'd be an I next to our name. There is no letter next to our name. It doesn't, you know, you're not libertarian, you're not Republican, Democrat, independent. If you really want to educate voters, do it that way. Because if you vote to become partisan, you're running the primary, all the financial reportings come out, and it's super simple. The state already has a way to set up to do that. And so you can go in, it's a simple vote, simple majority vote, and everything's done in the primaries. All the financials are out months before the general election. It gives you all the things that you're asking for already, but there's already a legal way set up with the state to do it. And so if the state doesn't want to do H, you just become partisan. And then we're really educating voters because we can give them way more opportunity and way more time to know more about the candidates. And so if this is truly about education, then that's the best way to do it. And the state already has the parameters set out to do that. And so, as I agreed with what Councilman Flynn said last week, which was there's so many things that voters need to know about. Financials is like so insignificant, and I find it interesting that the only people we even cared about was if you were a conservative giving money to a candidate. You know, there was people that got money from national PACs, not local PACs or anything like that, or PACs from Northwest Arkansas in this area. There was people that got money from national PACs, and we didn't talk about that. We're not making a big deal out of that. I just find that it's really interesting that we're only talking about conservative candidates. And so, like, it's hard for me to believe that this has genuine intent unless we do something that makes it seem like we're really trying to educate people. And it's simple to educate them. Just let them know who we really are. Thanks.
Thank you.
Is that microphone working out there? Do you think that microphone? No, that one out there.
That's the completion of the
The one at the podium.
citizen input, and it's time for our council member reply.
No, I'd say the gentleman that stepped up and spoke about, you know, the litter situation in Bella Vista. Yeah, I agree with you on 71, and you know, it isn't hard for anyone else to see in the city. It isn't just 71. We kind of have a larger issue. I wish we could solve it. It's a hard one to solve. I think some of it is unintended, but then I think some of it is just people that just don't care, you know, and toss things out the window. So it's kind of a myriad of, it's hard to legislate, and it's really a hard thing to fix. But I wish our city, well, I started to say I wish people would be more mindful in what they're doing with their trash. You know, a lot of people put it in the back of their pickups and things like that too, and they're driving down the road and it just flies out and they're not even aware of it. And so find a better way to store your trash when you're in your cars. But anyway, thank you for your comments. Couple things. It was mentioned that, you know, one of the speakers doesn't know what we do. You know, doesn't know or understand the time that we put in. And that's kind of hard to define for people. I mean, if you want to take a week someday, I'd be more than happy to take you through what I do and the effort that I put into this seat. and I'm not speaking just for myself, I mean, I know I can speak for other council members as well. And to that point, I actually invited Chris and Mark out via email. First of all, I invited them to a coffee just so we could sit down and talk to get to know each other better. They declined. And then I said, look, I'm getting ready to make a trip out today. It's a rezone request, but I'd be more than happy if you guys would want to meet me, and I'll take you with me, and I'll take you through the steps and the review and everything I do in that process so you can see at least this aspect of being a city council member and how thorough I am. And again, I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure other council members act in the same way. I don't know, because we're not allowed to interact with each other, you know, and have conversations about things like that. We have to do it independently. There are 3 rezone requests on the agenda today, and I know a couple of them are pretty innocuous or straightforward, really no question. I still drove by the properties and looked at them just so I could put my eyes on them and know exactly what we're talking about. So anytime you want to sit down and have a conversation about what I do, I'd be more than happy to show it to you. You know, and then if you decide you'd like to run for city council and take on the role and take on the responsibility and do the same homework and research, I would invite you to do that. Secondarily, so as far as item G on the agenda, which we will talk about in detail in just a moment, but just briefly, we're not really requesting any change in the current state statute as far as the submission of campaign contribution and expense forms. We are just going to consider whether to move the process of submitting them forward before the early voting begins. It's just in the guise of full disclosure. You know, people get a chance to put their eyes on it. So we're not doing anything immoral, illegal, or unethical in wanting to view that way. And to your point, the next agenda item after that is going to request that our state legislatures take up that topic and get it fixed, and secondarily that the AML takes up the topic and puts it in their legislative package for 2025. Why this hasn't been fixed prior to now is beyond me. This should have been addressed a long time ago. Anyone that I have spoken with before, and hopefully I don't repeat myself whenever we go through the agenda items, I've asked a lot of people now, even since last week, this is what we're doing, this is what we're considering. The stock answer is, just makes sense. So, you know, there might be some people that disagree with moving that up, but again, we're not asking anybody to do anything they don't already do. We're just asking that they disclose it sooner for the public to be able to put their eyes on it and view it. And you know what? Then they can make up their own minds. You know, that's as simple as it is. So it's not a Republican, it's not a Democrat, it's not an independent thing, it's not anything like that. This is just for the general population and the people that want to go to the polls and vote. So that's it.
Wendy?
First, thank you everyone who came out and spoke today. We really do appreciate the comments, and I hope we all hold them to consideration. Tim, thank you so much for that proposal. I think it's fantastic. I know where your heart is on this, and I hope that our city can help maybe push that forward. I think it's a good first step in making Bella Vista a better and more beautiful place. Mr. Strain, I'm on the street committee. I'd love to connect with you after the meeting, or I'll give you a call, and we'll figure out how to what I can do to help get that fixed for you. Can't make any promises, but I can get you to the right people, and we'll figure out something maybe to get that taken care of. And I think that's all I have.
Larry Wilms?
I want to thank the folks who got up and spoke tonight. I appreciate the input. The litter problem, I had a neighbor, you talked about pickup trucks driving down the road with the trash blowing out the back. I had a neighbor who mowed his lawn and very diligently put all of his grass clippings on his open-topped snowmobile trailer. And at the end of that, in the evening, right after supper, he would take the trailer and drive around the block. And when he came back, the trailer was empty miraculously. So I think that on occasion I've seen pickup trucks where the trash is thrown in the back, the empty bottles or wrappers or whatever, and no concern about containment. Irresponsible individuals, I would agree with you. But our society today tends to say, well, we'll leave it up to somebody else to take care of it, you know. The government will take care of it, right? And the government is really you and I as citizens. In regard to the GH and I don't see an issue conflicting with either state requirements or otherwise to ask for the filing of the financial statements for local elections by the candidates early. The information, first of all, has to be collected by the candidate, has to be documented by the candidate. The form has to be filled out, and if you're doing it diligently or tracking it as gifts and gratuities come in. So all you need to do is run a copy of it on the required filing date and send it in, or file it with the city clerk. It would apply to the city clerk or city clerk's competitor that was running for office to do the same thing and file it with our city clerk. That's the procedure, that's how it goes. So I generally support the proposal. I definitely support proposal on H, having the state do something. The litter problem, we should probably do some more pickups on 71. I don't know if the state does anything out there. Occasionally, I think I see the county sheriff and the jailer, the jail attendees occasionally doing it. So, thank you.
Go ahead. Anyone else? Jim Wozniak?
Nowhere does it say you can't donate. This has got nothing to do with how much and where the money comes from.
No.
All it is getting it on the public record. Once you give the money, whether you give it under the new deal, 7, 8 days early, or you keep it where it's at, everybody and their brother in this room, in the whole city, and the whole world can dig out how much you give. This has got nothing to do with how much you give.
No.
Just recording it, that's it. Once it's in there, everybody and their brother can look at it. Doesn't matter where it comes from, we're not stopping that. It's just we're asking you to report it a little earlier so some people who can look at it before the primary starts. You've heard it in the national elections that people start voting way before everything else happens. This is supposed to take care of that to a point where we know ahead of time who's giving what. But you can give as much as you want, as often as you want. You just have to record it, and then once you record it, we all know about it. Doesn't restrict who can or when give money.
Yeah, there's no red flag there.
Anyone else want to comment?
I'm hesitant, but I'm going to comment. I'm going to reserve my comments for G, H, and I as they come through on the agenda. The comment that we need to be held accountable, you know, I'm new, I guess, to this position still, 1 year and a little beyond. Every ordinance that I've sponsored or proposed has been for this community. I think everybody, I'm not going to speak on behalf of everybody, I think everybody's motivated for the improvement of the community. That's why I'm sitting here. As far as doing shiesty things or whatever that's all about, you know, I've been above board with everything. You know, the phone calls that I've answered, the emails that I've answered, you know, there was concern with Gordon Hollow getting redone. First thing I did was have a conversation with the chief and Mayor Flynn about getting traffic calming taken care of. You know, everything that I have done has been for the betterment and improvement of the community. And I am very proud of that. And I think everybody that sits up here is very proud of every single interaction that they've had with the people in this community. I love it here. I would never do anything to disparage my standing. I take great honor in being up here. I'm very proud to be up here. And the only comment that I will make about the vote or the item G, you know, I financed my own campaign, and I know it's tough. But as I said in the work session, that's the only thing that I did comment on, is that it's just moving the goalposts back. I don't, you know, I was driving home after the work session, trying to read it back through my head, how this is getting misconstrued as some kind of an attack. The language is very plain. I have no problem with more transparency. So I think it's a good thing. I'm anxious to hear comments as we discuss each of those items. And with that, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just have a short comment. I have picked up trash a few years with fly tires on Lancashire, and then I've picked up trash on that 6 and 60 deal on 71, and it's amazing how much worse it is on 71. It's just times 10. It's just off the charts. So I'm very interested in anything we can do about it. And Tim, I think you've sent us something on it, but if you could send it again, yeah, that would be great. I'd just like to get it in front of me before our next meeting and see what we can figure out. Appreciate you bringing it up. The next topic is action on the minutes of January 22, 2024.
Move approval.
Second.
That was Mr. Wilms and Mr. Fowler. Roll call vote.
Mr. Wilms and Mr. Fowler were the,
Yes.
okay.
Motion and second.
Yes, council members Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
and Fowler.
Yes.
Motion carried, 6-0. The next item is reports. We do have a financial report. Because this was the year-end statement, we don't close it out till February 29, so we don't have a full statement. But Kim sent out to council a partial report, which gives you some feeling for the year. I'll just mention a few things. The city sales tax went up 5%. County sales tax went up 12%. The total operating revenue went up 12%. So it seems like the year got stronger as it went along. Total revenue was $22.9 million, and that was up a good bit from last year. It was up about, looks like it was up about $3 million. And on the expense side, the expenses were $500,000 or so below budget. So the total revenue, this is on the general fund, was 22.9, and the total expenses were 18.4. So we have a pretty good gap there, which we need, because we need those gaps to pay for our capital expenditures, which have been pretty significant the last few years. So I just wanted to mention that, and then there's some a little bit of breakdown on the sales tax and county sales tax by month. But we'll have the complete report by next month. And of course, this is preliminary, and it's also unaudited, obviously. We're going to start the audit pretty quickly this year. I think we're going to start it in March even. So Kim Hall's been determined to get the audit done faster. It's hard to get the auditors to do that, but she's going to give it another shot this year. So. Okay, the next item is new business.
Motion to suspend the rules and read the ordinances and agenda by title only.
Right.
I'll make the motion.
You'll make the motion.
Second.
That was Mr. Wilms and Mr. Hanschel. Roll call vote.
Council members Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
and Fowler.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. The next item is an ordinance amending Chapter 105 flood damage prevention of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to provide for planning commission consideration of waivers of certain requirements and for other purposes. And the staff is requesting move the third and final. Taylor Robertson is here if you want any elaboration on it.
I don't really have any questions. I don't know if Taylor wants to review it just briefly. We talk about things like this at the work session, pretty extensive sometimes. So we get to city council meetings, and we've said this at city council meetings a lot. The conversations basically happened. So there's not a lot to discuss here because we have an understanding. But the only thing is, it's like, this isn't a big change. It's just a cleanup, more or less, is what it is, right?
That's correct. All we're doing is giving the assignment of a flood damage prevention code from Board of Zoning Adjustment to the Planning Commission. So everywhere in Chapter 105, we replaced Board of Zoning Adjustment with Planning Commission, and anywhere it says variance with waiver. So it's just a housekeeping cleanup and moving the duties over from BZA to PC.
Thank you for that explanation. Is there a motion to go to third and final?
I'd like to make a motion, suspend the rules and go to third and final.
Second.
That was Mr. Fowler and Mr. Honchel. A roll call vote on the motion to suspend the rules and move to third and final.
Council members Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and Hanschel.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. I'll read the ordinance for the third and final time. Amending Chapter 105 Flood Damage Prevention of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to provide for Planning Commission consideration of waivers of certain requirements and for other purposes. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second.
Was Mr. Fowler and Mr. Honchel? Roll call vote.
Council members Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Thank you for that. Next ordinance, B, is amending the Bella Vista zoning ordinance and map to rezone county parcel numbers 16-16926-000 and 16-16927-000 from R1 Residential Single Family District to P1 Conservation District. And these are parcels at on Trafalgar, which is going to be at the end of the extension of the Greenway. It's right now, it ends at Metfield, and it's going to go the rest of the way down Commonwealth and hang a right on Trafalgar and go down. And this would be a trailhead at that location. Is there a motion to move to third and final?
I've got a question,
Sure.
if I may. Yeah, I didn't see in the report from staff who owned the property. Is that POA?
Yeah, the POA currently owns those two lots on Sleaford Lane.
Because it's common property all around it, so they own the two lots. So it's not a cleanup for them. It's really in support of the trailhead usage on those two lots.
It is more in line with the current trail use, correct? Most of the trailheads that we have currently are on P1 zone, so we're just getting it more in line with what currently is being practiced.
Okay, thank you.
I might add that the POA is, in my experience, has been very supportive of the trails and very enthusiastic about it.
I would just like to say, I would challenge anybody to find these two parcels of land without the help of the GIS map, I mean, the streets, doesn't have a street sign, there's no anything, it's pretty hard to find.
Yeah.
So, anyway, just putting eyes on it, I mean, it just makes sense.
It's at the top of the hill before you go down to
Yeah,
Gross
yeah,
Neighbor,
yeah.
Gross Linear.
I was able to find
Trafalgar.
it with the help of somebody from the CDS department.
There you go. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and move to third and final.
Second.
That was Mr. Fowler and Mr. Wilms. Roll call vote on the motion to move to third and final.
Council members Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Let me read it for a third and final time. Amending the Bella Vista zoning ordinance and map to rezone county parcel numbers 16-16926-000 and 16-16927-000 from R1 Residential Single Family District to P1 Conservation District. Is there a motion to pass?
Motion to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Hanschel and Mr. Fowler. Roll call vote.
Council members Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
and Wilms.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is an ordinance amending the Bella Vista zoning ordinance and map to rezone property described in rezoning petition number 2023-52821, county parcel number 16-37442-000 from P1 Conservation District to R1 Residential Single Family District. And I believe this was one of those cases where there was a lot in the middle of a subdivision, everything else was R1. And someone must have built a house on it, and it's,
Well, this lot's
No.
already been cleared, hasn't it?
No, this one is.
Yeah.
Not sure if it's been cleared or not,
It-
from the time I've been out there.
According to my GPS, that's where I was. But it's in a residential neighborhood. I mean, it's in a subdivision, so.
That's correct, and I mean, we issue, land clearing for this current zoning anyway. But yeah, this is one of those lots that's within an entire subdivision. All the same size, standard lots are being zoned as R1. This lot also has a private land use restriction on it from the plat as a detached, single-family structure on it as well. So this will be in conformance with the private requirements, getting the zoning more in compliance with that. And the applicant has definitely provided enough information to show that it is developable. In the packet, you'll see that the perk test has already been done. They've got a house that fits on the lot and a plot plan and house plans ready to go, so.
thank you, Taylor. Is there,
I'd like to make a motion, suspend the rules, move to third and final.
Second.
that's Mr. Fowler and Mr. Hanschel. A roll call vote on the motion to suspend the rules and move to third and final.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
and Snow.
Yes.
Okay, I'll read it for the third and final time. Amending the Bella Vista zoning ordinance and map to rezone property described in rezoning petition number 2023-52821, county parcel number 16-37442-000 from P1 Conservation District to R1 Residential Single Family District. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
That's Mr. Wilms and Mr. Fowler. Roll call vote.
Excuse me, was that Wilms?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that,
Council members Wilms and Fowler.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, council members Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Motion carried, 6-0. Next one is an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to adopt a new Article 10, outdoor lighting, to Chapter 109 zoning to provide for outdoor lighting regulations for new commercial developments and for other purposes.
I think we missed
Did
the
we
Cougar
skip
We
one?
Chapel.
skipped D.
D,
Oh, we did? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. My bad.
that's the chapel.
Let's go to D. Amending the Bella Vista zoning ordinance and map the rezone property described in rezoning petition number 2023-52794, county parcel number 16-40224-000 from R2 Residential Two-Family District to C1 Neighborhood Commercial District. And this is the property that's near the chapel.
Behind the chapel.
Is there any questions?
No, I mean, I stopped over there today, and I think the primary reason is they want to build a new facility. Whenever they built the original one, that was before ADA laws came into effect, and so it's very difficult to access, you know, the bathrooms and things like that for, you know, anybody that might, well, just, you know, have mobility issues. And so they want to build, you know, different offices as well, so they can have a better view of the parking lot, and also so they can now comply with ADA. The lady that manages the property said, you know, everyone calls that wants to book the property, you know, she has to take them through the situation and ask, you know, if it's people might need wheelchair access and different things like that before, you know, they book something, because it could, you know, limit people, and rather than them show up and then not being able to access different aspects is a difficulty for them, challenge. So that's a lot of the reasoning, you know, behind the requesting of this rezone. And also the building they want to build is a little bit larger than what is allowed in an R2 zone district, I believe, right?
Well, the use is currently sitting as a legal nonconformity use, and so that since they're expanding, the uses that are nonconforming, they need to bring into compliance.
Okay.
Is there a motion to go to third and
Motion to
final?
go to third and, or suspend the rules and go to third and final.
Second.
That's Mr. Hanschel and Mr. Wilms. A roll call vote on motion to suspend the rules and go to third and final.
Council members Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and Hanschel.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. I'll read it for a third and final time. Amending the Bella Vista zoning ordinance and map to rezone property described in rezoning petition number 2023-52794, county parcel number 16-40224-000, from R2 residential two-family district to C1 neighborhood commercial district. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
That's Mr. Hanschel and Mr. Fowler. Roll call vote.
Council members Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
and Hughes.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is the E, ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Bella Vista to adopt a new Article 10 outdoor lighting to Chapter 109 zoning to provide for outdoor lighting regulations for new commercial developments and for other purposes. Is there some discussion?
Motion to,
Well,
yeah, I'm gonna stop.
we have Mr. Wilms, I think, has proposed an amendment.
There are some amendments proposed. I read the ordinance, and I thought it was a really, really good start, and I thought there were some areas that perhaps we needed to plug the holes in the boat, so to speak. So my proposal is to add some things. One significant things are adding a definitions list, and not all of those are definitions that are strictly in this ordinance, proposed ordinance, but refer to manufacturers' documents that would be used in implementing the ordinance. So it goes back to a number of things, but talks about fully shielded, full cutoff, foot candle, glare, illuminance, lumen, and some other key definition items that are found in the manufacturer's literature that come in, so that we acknowledge those. Under applicability, we added that lights fixtures need to be maintained properly all the time, especially to meet the requirements of the ordinance. Non-conforming situations, if they become a complaint issue, then they can be addressed. Otherwise, they go as is. I added a proposed suggestion allowing for lighted flags of the United States in Arkansas to be illuminated 24 hours a day or during the nighttime, certainly, as an exception, because it would be otherwise prohibited, I think, by this ordinance. At least is how I read it. And what else? And then the suggestion was whether, and it's a question for my peers on the council, the prohibited outdoor lighting is the operation of searchlights for advertising purposes shall be prohibited. And my question is that do we want to make an exception there, allowing community development services to manage it like a permit for up to 1 week, and then limiting the lighting operation from not allowed between 9 p.m. and 7 in the morning? Because there are still some businesses, I think, that still do that. I don't know if I think I've seen it once in Bella Vista, but it's been a number of years. But it's not something that is so popular now, but it catches your eye certainly to see the spotlight in the sky and going around and draws in the business. So the question would be is, are there any of these that is a heartburn problem for my peers?
At this point, I'd like to call on Taylor Robertson, because she had some comments on that. She met with me today and had some comments on some of the amendments. Thank you.
Staff just had some housekeeping comments on the amendment if it was to be proposed and replaced inside the actual ordinance that went through the public hearing. The definitions, just as a housekeeping note, we typically don't put housekeepings within articles like this. Typically, it goes within the chapter. So any definitions that would be added would need to be added to 109-3 to keep a nice conforming flow of our current chapter 109. And then, of course, as you've mentioned, there are several in here that we don't use. Our code speaks in terms of lumens instead of foot candles, small things like that. Nits, nowhere in our zoning code, kind of discusses that. Everything's used in the term of lumens or the measurement of lumens. We have a lumens measure at CDS.
So you don't use foot candles, but do you use lumens?
Yes.
Okay.
And then in the applicability, I think one of your recommendations was to mark out more and replace with less. This additions is our common zoning standard for applicability section, so it's used throughout the code whenever something that is not a single family home or duplex needs brought into compliance. This is our already current set standard. It's copy and pasted in here, so that way it stays the same throughout the zoning chapter. And staff would prefer that to stay the same, so that way we have a more easier application in the enforcement of that code. Right now,
it should say whichever is more.
yeah, I should say that's what our current zoning ordinance says in other chapters, or in other articles of chapter 109.
So all of them now read whatever is more as opposed to whatever is less.
Like for example, our landscaping code, copy and pasted, it says the same exact thing. So if it could just be the same as all of our other large scale requirements, it would be easier for staff to enforce.
Okay. And you don't think going with the less, meaning more inclusive, you'd be more inclusive by having the term less there? It would create an issue in terms of administration, or?
I'm just trying to keep it clean throughout chapter 109. That's my only comment, is just making them all the same.
I don't know if it makes a huge difference.
That's kind of my point too, is like it's kind of the same, tomato kind of thing. Whichever one of those things would happen would trigger, whether if someone was adding a 10% or increasing the 10% of the GFA, or if they were adding 2,600 square feet, we would still trigger that chapter or that article.
Okay, all right.
And then maintenance, the intent of that was for people that needed to change out like light bulbs and ballasts and things like that. People that are replacing or changing out light fixtures were already required to come into conformance with this, this new proposal. So I wasn't sure if the intent on that is that even changing light bulbs, so like when our towers go out and change their light bulb or whatever it is. The intent was to exempt them.
Minor things like a light bulb, but if you're talking about doing some reworking of the fixture itself because of something else is burned out, then you're really into an expense, and you're probably at a point where it's gonna be cheaper to replace the fixture.
So yeah, and then subsection 4, replacement of any fixtures was already a requirement on there. We just didn't want to apply this to light bulb, those smaller insignificant change outs. But if you were changing or altering the fixture, triggered.
Okay. So are we taking something out?
She wanted to delete the maintenance addition.
In number 290, right?
Yeah, number 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Staff
All
would prefer to just keep basic maintenance like light bulb change outs from crossing a large scale review desk.
And I deleted the maintenance in the exemptions. And I'm not sure, I think if you're going to do a lamp ballast and starter and some other things, you're seriously getting into the fixture itself, and probably it's time to consider upgrading and coming into compliance. So I didn't want to have simple things, or not simple things, more complex things in maintenance to be waived and allow you to continue to violate the ordinance or be in conflict with the ordinance. And so,
Okay.
so I'm thinking that I'm still proposing the exemption being that maintenance disappears.
Okay. My other comment was that this is a zoning chapter requirement. So I know this mentions the chief building inspector. Since this is zoning, typically that would be the zoning administrator, which is planning.
Okay.
So this will be enforced by planning, not building.
Yeah, and so it wouldn't be the chief building inspector, wherever
Correct.
that is.
He will be reviewing the lighting plan inside is what he will be enforcing and reviewing.
Figure out where
And then
that is.
planning will do outdoor.
Is that 109-296?
That's 109-2906.
Okay.
As read on the amendment.
The non-conforming. Oh,
Applicability non.
that's where the chief building inspector goes to zoning administrator.
Well, you have planning.
Plan.
Our code mentions both zoning administrator and planning, but planning department or planning division will be the enforcer of this during a large-scale review.
So
And then
the wording that you'd want in there is plan.
CBO needs moved out. The chief building inspector is not applicable for this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be, what title goes in there?
Zoning administrator is what our code uses.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see any issues with those.
What about 109-293-4? I think he,
Yes, so that one, that's just more of a question that staff has on this. We're marking out, or proposing to mark out residential. Our current shielding requirements or our current screening requirements that we already have, like commercial to commercial don't need to screen from each other, and industrial to industrial don't need to screen from each other. However, anytime any of those entities are adjacent to residential properties, they do need to screen. So that was the intent. We'll want to, ultimately protect residential properties next to commercial to keep the lights out of their back, windows in their bedrooms and whatnot, but also to kind of be in line with our current screening requirements we already have.
The rationale of taking this out is that I didn't want to strictly limit it to that overlap. I wanted to cover everything. So you're saying it already does.
Our code already does not require screening for commercial to commercial or industrial to industrial.
so she's saying if you deleted this, you'd be
This will be a new
contradicting
thing.
the code.
So our screening won't match our shielding
By deleting the word residential.
and applying it to everybody.
Right. And,
It would conflict with our screening table.
okay, so we need to leave that in. Is that right?
Preferably, staff would recommend to leave it in there.
Okay, okay. I don't see any issues with those.
And then my last comment was, well, I have two more comments, but one for the amendment, is the short-term advertising, you know, the flashing lights that you see.
The big spotlight thing.
Yeah, this current proposal only applies to permanent light fixtures. So the short-term wheelie, you know, wheelie things technically wouldn't be overseen in this development ordinance.
So it wouldn't fall under outdoor lighting anyway.
Yeah, because this is only triggered by development. So anytime someone's making a new building or expanding a current building and they're putting a permanent light fixture on their property, that is what is overseen on here.
So we need to take the addition off. That's proposed, and well, proposed for consideration because the question marks are there. So you could still do that, but you'd need to do something with your code.
That's technically not, it wouldn't fall under this, or that was not the intent to fall under this, because it's not a permanent light fixture, part of a new development.
Right, it'd fall elsewhere.
They would fall elsewhere, probably up in the nuisance code or something like that.
Okay, okay. I don't have any issues with those.
So, just a question if you're done.
Yeah.
So are we left with anything of your proposals?
Yes.
Okay, so can we, this is first reading of the ordinance, right? And there's no reason like to rush this through. Could you guys get together and make a clean?
We'll clean it up for the
proposal,
next
clean
meeting.
amendment,
Yeah.
right, rather than, you know.
For the next work
continue.
session.
Because I'll be straight up honest. I mean, I'm not a lighting engineer, and I appreciate Councilmember Wilms, you know, his background and his history, and he knows his stuff, there's no doubt. And he's very detail-oriented. Some of this I can follow, and some of it I can't. I understand the intent of the ordinance, absolutely. Some of the details, quite honestly, you know, they're a little bit past my expertise. So I appreciate everybody's work on this, but yeah, I think the best would be to step back and bring it back in a clean proposal with you two working together to make that happen.
Yeah, I think it's enough changes that we need
Yeah.
to make sure we have whatever all straight.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is ordinance is F, amending chapter 107 subdivisions and other developments of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to provide additional clarity regarding the intent and applicability of drainage permits in the drainage manual and for other purposes. This is another one where staff requested going to third and final. So there didn't seem to be any opposition to it.
No
Any
comment?
discussion?
Is there no comment? I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and move to third and final.
Second.
That was Mr. Fowler and Mr. Hanschel. So a roll call vote to suspend the rules and move to third and final.
Councilmember Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Let me read it again.
Mr. Mayor, I have some questions yet,
Oh, okay.
if I
Go
could.
ahead.
Let me get to the ordinance.
We need to we can have further debate on third reading, but I think, Mayor, go ahead and read it the third time.
Yes, so read it
Oh,
before we do the
then-
debate.
Okay. Amending chapter 107 subdivisions and other developments of the code and ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to provide additional clarity regarding the intent and applicability of drainage permits in the drainage manual and for other purposes. Okay.
Okay, now, in section 1.0, and that is one point zero is in the manual, and it talks about you're adding residential driveways. In the third paragraph, it says culverts are available in a variety of sizes and shapes. Sizes and shapes may vary from small circular corrugated plastic pipes for driveways to large multiple side-by-side concrete box sections. It's been revised to read Sizes and shapes may vary from small circular corrugated plastic pipes for residential driveways as approved by the city engineer. And my question there is, are other driveways exempt, or are they considered somewhere else? Are they addressed somewhere else? Because you're adding residential in here, so what about driveways for other uses? Where does that fall under?
So that falls under the culvert material requirements that's in 3.7, I believe.
3.7?
3.3.2. This is just the introduction 1.0, and the intent of that was talking about, we believe that residential driveways, saying that it's okay for HDPE or HDPP. Our code specifically, or our drainage manual specifically uses HDPE for driveways, because that's been a long-standing practice here in Bella Vista. HDPE is a very common residential detached single-family dwelling access drive culvert material. It just doesn't say that. And so, again, to clean up the ambiguity is to directly say that the intent, we believe, of HDPE commonly used under single-family houses, we're reflecting that in the drainage manual, because that has been just the interpretation and practice of staff since as long as I know. So we're already practicing that. Residential driveways, HDPE. However, the other driveways that are going to be more commercial grade, have larger trucks, more traffic, things like that, they're going to have a concrete culvert. Most likely is what our engineer is going to require anyway, 18-inch minimum.
Okay. So farther on in the code, under section 3.32, under reinforced concrete pipe, there's abbreviations after the addition. I don't know if those are new. It's highlighted. It's in reinforced concrete pipe, shall be used under all public roadways, and the addition is, or as approved by the city engineer. And then after that, there's a parenthesis with a capital B, comma, capital F, capital S.
That was for discussion as an example or an exhibit showing that the other three major cities, Bentonville, Fayetteville, and Springdale, have this exact same thing.
That's
so that was
what
for
the BFS
discussion.
stands for.
Yeah.
Bentonville, Fayetteville, and
Correct.
Springdale. Gotcha.
That will not be added to the drainage manual. That is
Okay.
for discussion only.
Wasn't sure what that was all about. And then moving down to section 426A. And that's in the code. That's not a part of the manual, I believe. It's part of the code, is it not?
Yeah, I think the
And
manual
section
got
A,
added.
section 8, 107, 426, this is on page, I have a page number here.
I think somehow the exhibit got dropped in the middle of the ordinance exhibit, if that makes sense. I think that's an organization error on the paper.
Maintenance, it says, part A, systems within the public right-of-way. Stormwater management systems located within the public right-of-way and under a public street addition shall be maintained by the city. And my question for you is, who maintains the culverts for private driveways, residential, commercial? And my background experience is that the driveway is there at the whim and pleasure of the local municipality or county or state or federal government. So you're there at their pleasure. So they gave you the permit to put in the driveway and put in the culvert. And because of that device is yours and it belongs to the property owner. And I don't know what is our philosophy in Bella Vista, because it says that drainage stuff in the right-of-way is going to be maintained by the city highway department.
So our current code up outside of the land development ordinance addresses this, and so we're making it match that. Essentially, property owners are responsible for maintaining their culverts and making sure they're free of debris. I believe it's chapter 24 in the right-of-way improvements. Stormwater shall not be prohibited or impeded. It does mention and require that our residents keep their own culverts clear, even if it's in the right-of-way. However, our current practice is that our city street department maintains culverts that go under city streets. Everything that's under a private driveway is maintained by the resident or the property owner.
But the private driveway culvert is in the public right-of-way.
Correct.
It's the way it is now, Eric.
Yeah, this
That's how it
language
currently is.
was added to clarify.
Because this conflicts with another ordinance that we already have and have had for a while.
Okay. So under the public street, we're talking about public drainage structures crossing underneath the roadway,
Correct.
not for the private drives.
Correct.
Okay, all right. All right, I'm good. I'm done.
Okay,
Thank you.
I believe we've read this for a third and final, so is there a motion to
So moved.
Second.
approve? Motion to approve.
Yes.
Mr. Wilms and Mr. Fowler. A roll call vote on the motion to approve.
Councilmember Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. The next one is ordinance G, requiring candidates for election to any municipal office in the city of Bella Vista, in addition to any other requirement of state law, to file campaign contribution and expenditure reports with the Bella Vista city clerk in sufficient time for voters to make use of such information prior to the beginning of early voting and for other purposes.
Okay, guess I'll start, huh? It's made obvious that I'm basically the sponsor of this. First of all, I'd just like for the council to know that item agenda H and I, just so you'll know, I'm probably going to make a proposal to table those two agenda items and vote on those at a subsequent meeting whenever and if we get to the point of voting on this particular ordinance here. Probably makes sense that they kind of go hand in hand, okay? And not only that, but on resolution I, I spoke with staff attorney Kelly earlier today, and there's a little bit of rewording I want to do on that, maybe to take a little bit of the edge off of it, if you will. So I want to have an opportunity to do that as well. So I just want to let you know those other two agenda items, I'm going to move to table those until we move forward on this ordinance. So this ordinance, first of all, it has to do with public disclosure of what's going on in our elections. Why that this hasn't been taken up by the state at this point is kind of something I do not understand. Whenever the voting began earlier and earlier, like I said, why this didn't move with it, I don't know. But I certainly think that that's something that our state legislature should take up, which is what agenda item H recommends and recognizes. So I'd like to focus, I said, on the second or the third whereas on the ordinance proposal. Whereas early voting in municipal elections begins at such a time that most, if not all, reports are not available to electorate of Bella Vista, as a deadline for filing the reports with the county clerk is after the starting date of early voting. So that kind of gets to the crux of the whole conversation, actually. And as I mentioned before, as I ran this ordinance by members of our community, I was like to a person, almost exact stock response, well, this just makes sense, right? And so I addressed this in the work session, but in the guise of public disclosure, and I'll say it again, the Freedom of Information Act that your public officials are subject to in Bella Vista, except our state legislatures, we are held to a very high level of accountability. And to me, this just kind of goes hand in hand with that. There are some statements that were written. The purpose of the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act says it encourages respect for the public's right to know about the government's business. Another point is it encourages respect for the public opinion as it relates to the business of government. And third, it encourages interest of the public in the democratic process. And I will tell you that this ordinance has definitely generated interest, for sure. and we've heard from some people today that are not present now. I think it's interesting. I think that some people at this particular point feel targeted by this. They think it's about them. And I can tell you it's not about any one candidate. It's not about any one organization that is making contributions to these candidates' candidacy. It's not about any one person. It's not about any one special interest group. I accessed every campaign contribution expense report for every public official in Bella Vista last election cycle, and I saw things that raised and piqued my interest level, okay? I'll just say that. And I will also say that what initially grabbed my attention piqued my attention was an article that was written in the weekly Vista on November the 16th of 2022, written by Bennett Horn. And he kind of brought to light, a couple of those campaign contributions in particular, all right? When I saw that, I was just like, I'm gonna delve a little deeper on this, okay? And when I was delving deeper, again, this doesn't have to do with party, doesn't have to do whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, whether you're an independent, whoever you are if you run. This is a nonpartisan thing, and I'll say something else here in a second. But in his article, which I fully feel what he understands, he says, after he reviews the campaign contribution forms and expenditure reports, and he made his revelations that he did, he says, I'm also fine with the candidate getting the money they think they need, within reason, to run a successful campaign. But when the final votes are tallied, my only concern is where the loyalty lies. Is the loyalty to the person or group giving the most money? Is the loyalty with the out-of-towns or out-of-state donors? Or is the loyalty with the constituents on the home front, the ones a race winner is charged with representing? So I don't think anybody can disagree with the comment that he made there. So I don't even have to make it myself personally, nor does anyone else. So I'm not just like coming forth with this, I'm just not speaking on my own, okay? This has already been in the public domain, this conversation. So I don't want to go on and on about this. I'm not going to try to propose or try to move to third and final tonight. It's on the agenda for the first reading, so we can have further conversation. Just so you will know, there are a couple phone calls made today. There is a state legislator, a House legislator, that is going to bring this proposal to the state's Attorney General for their opinion, and see if we get any feedback on it or any, like I said, any opinion on it, which I think is great. What was I going to say? So it's going to go to the state Attorney General. Oh, when I first decided that I wanted to move forward with this ordinance proposal, I didn't just do it on my own. I went to our staff attorney, Jason Kelly, and asked him if he would do some research for me. And he did, because I wanted to know if there was anything that would prohibit us from doing this. And there's not like a definitive answer. There's not anything that says yes, nor is there anything that says no. And that kind of seems to be the blanket response. But I would ask for our attorney, Jason, to speak to this just a little bit, after we've had some of these conversations that, between ourselves in public, disclosure, okay? So, Jason, yes.
And you'd like me to comment on the legalities of it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the state law does not prohibit, in the election law, it does not prohibit cities from legislating in the area of campaign disclosures and donations in terms of the reporting requirements. State law does clearly say that cities have the authority to legislate, to establish reasonable limitations regarding the timing of contribution solicitation, to provide lower limits on contributions to local candidates than those otherwise provided in state law, and to provide voluntary campaign expenditure limits for local candidates seeking election to the respective governing body. I think that if you were to try to do all of those things, or even some of those things, which the law specifically says you can, I think you would have constitutional problems and regarding that. And so I think probably in at least those areas, you would have a problem if you wanted to do any of those things constitutionally. But it does not specifically say cities have the authority to provide for to additional filing and disclosure with the city clerk or the city. So we're left with, well, it doesn't say we can, and it also in the election law doesn't say we can't. So then you have to look at sort of the general law about what our authority is as a city, and we have the authority to legislate in the area of municipal affairs. And state law says municipal affairs are those affairs which are defined as such and which are not state affairs. And so when you go through, it says the following are state affairs, and so thereby implication, you are prohibited from legislating in areas which are state affairs. This particular, local elections are not listed as a state affair in that statute. So there's a clear argument that because of home rule principles, the repeal of Dillon's rule, and I don't want to get too technical with you, but the idea that unless the law restricts you, you can legislate, basically have broad legislative authority. The idea of that would be the idea where the authority comes from to adopt this proposal. It is unclear. The Municipal League is of the same opinion, and I know we chatted about their comments about this at the work session. They basically stated the same thing, that it doesn't really prohibit it, but it really seems like a state thing. No one's ever tried to do it before. Probably going to get sued. We don't know, but at a minimum, their opinion was, if you try to go down this road, we're probably going to see a law when the legislature comes around that clarifies that one way or the other, and probably is going to say that's going to be up to the state. We don't want cities to do that. So that's their view. And the legal opinion that they have, I agree with. So the best thing I can tell you is it's unclear. So let me get on into a conversation that occurred today while I have the microphone. So I got a call today from the lead counsel of the Municipal League, John Wilkerson. He contacted me to let me know he had been reached out to by State Representative McAlinden, and told me that she had been asked or was asking about the issue that's on the agenda for tonight, asking some questions and really wanting to ask for an AG opinion on it. I told John, I said, that's fine. What John told me is that the representative had sort of informally already talked to the AG's office. I mean, this is informal conversation. I can't speak for her. I didn't hear the conversation. But they pretty much have mirrored what I've said and what the league has said about where the legal status of this is right now. And so, but obviously they would look more in depth with it when they get a formal request for an opinion. She indicated to me when I talked to her on the phone, because she called me, that she intended to submit that request for a written Attorney General's opinion today. I told her I'd be able to provide any information. If I could provide any information for her, I'd be happy to do that. And she said she was going to do that. She also, though I cannot speak for her, I cannot speak for the league, they both communicated to me that it's their desire or hope that the city would not act on this until that AG opinion is received. It'll either do a couple of things. It'll either say what we've been saying, it could go either way, and you'll have that knowledge when you decide to vote, or it will give us more of an answer that's a yes or more of an answer that's a no, and rather than having acted and then getting that opinion and dealing, get that opinion, and that way we'll have more information whenever it comes time to vote. So I told them that I would communicate that to the council, and I have done so, and that's the information I can give you.
Wendy?
Do we know typically how long it takes for an AG review on this sort of thing?
I cannot tell you what their timetable is. There is no hard timetable on this, so I just can't tell you. It could be a month, it could be 4 months, it could be longer, it could be less. I don't know. They have certain opinions they have to give in a certain period of time related to FOI, and I know they dedicate a lot of effort to that because they have legal deadlines on the answer. than others. It probably depends on the complexity of the issue and how long it takes them to put it together. So they would have to speak to that, but I certainly cannot give you an answer on when to expect a response.
So, John?
Jerry?
Some time ago, in a different conversation, I was told that it's taking the AG approximately 6 months now to render an opinion.
That's not surprising.
Doug, did you have something?
Yeah, so, like I said, tonight's first reading, right? Because in some sense, I mean, we're not like pushed right up against the clock right now. But, you know, we need to get the process started, so that's what we're gonna do today. You know, I don't have any problem, personally, setting a precedence. You know, this is something that should have been done and it should have been handled already. And my question would be to people that may not support this and they want to keep the campaign disclosure statements and financial, you know, campaign expenditure reports, you know, the way they are now, and have early voting going on, whatever it is, 10 days or 2 weeks before the general election, is what do you have to hide? What is it that you don't want disclosed? You know, that would be the first thing I would think. You know, that's just me personally. Man, maybe some other people would not think that way, but I would, you know. So, I don't know, in resolution in the item agenda H, you know, to propose to someone what I am hoping for, don't know that it'll happen, I know it has people's attention, is, you know, a state legislature would give us a call and say, you know what, I am going to make this proposal for the next legislative session and get it on our agenda so we can vote on it and hopefully pass it, because it just makes sense. So I don't know if anyone else has an opinion at this point, but I'm not willing to pull it, waiting for an attorney general's opinion on this or feedback, because we do need to move forward. And what happens, you know, if you do pull it, you know, then the conversation will go away conveniently, you know, could happen. So don't want that to happen either.
Mr. Mayor, I just have one quick question. Are we discussing GH and I?
Just G now.
Just G,
Okay,
right this minute, G. Yeah.
okay. You know, and as I stated earlier, I don't have a problem with the language of any of it. As Councilman Fowler said, that he was going to try to clean it up. I could see that. But to his point, I don't see any real reason to try to delay this, especially if it's, as Councilman Snow pointed out, it could take up to 6 months. You know, it's sure not going to hurt to get something like this in place and see how it plays out. But like I said, as things are written, I have no problem with it. I have no problem with the timetable. So.
Did you want to say something, Wendy?
I think so. I love the transparency aspect of this. I don't know if we are the fit party to go ahead with this. I think that'd be more responsible to go with H tonight, personally, and have a resolution asking the state to take this in consideration and pass this statewide, opposed to us doing this as an individual city.
Anybody else? Larry?
I don't have any issues with the concept and the rationale behind. I'm sorry, I didn't have my mic on. We were getting some feedback before, and so I shut it off. Apologize. I don't see any issues that would find anyone that would object to this unless there's an issue on their part that is sought to be covered up or hidden. I think all of us should be able to defend, if asked, contributions that we receive and report on. And I think there's a limit that you need to report. If you spend under $500 total, I think you don't have to file a report at all. And if it's over $500, they would apply to anyone who fits into that category. And I don't know of our council persons or elected officials in Bella Vista, whether it applies to all of us, some of us, none of us. I think looking at the last election, it applied to most people here who filed a financial report because they received over $500. So I guess we're asking in the G, we're asking for it to be filed in the same form they file with the county. So if you're diligent in keeping your records for your campaign, all you do is on the date that it's due, it's up to date because you've maintained your records promptly. Make a copy, file it with the city clerk, and you're on your way. So I think there's a big to-do about nothing, in my humble opinion, unless there is an issue here that's hiding in the weeds somewheres that someone is concerned about. And quite frankly, none of us should be concerned about that if we're running for local office, or state office for that matter either. So I generally support G. I think H is a wildcat. I want to back up 1 second. The Attorney General's office responds to their workload. We don't know where they are in their workload in terms of opinions and other things. They obviously respond to the governor's office first, the legislature second, and then other people for their third. So we're high on the pecking order if an elected senator or representative at the state is making that request as opposed to someone else. So I think that helps us in the pecking order of priorities. Relative to H and I have mixed feelings about whether the legislature...
We're not talking about that yet?
Yeah.
Just G?
Just G.
Yes.
I'll stop. Thank you.
Jerry, did you have something? Jerry Snow?
Well, Mr. Fowler and Mr. Flynn, or Mr. Wynn, have both Williams, have both already given the best reason to object to and vote against this. Mr. Williams has already indicated that I'm against this, so therefore I got something to hide. Mr. Fowler said the same thing. Anyone that would be against this has got to have something to hide. So again, I'm against it. I got something hiding in the weeds. And my weeds are, of course, open to inspection. But another matter is that this is nothing more than election interference. The state has election laws that govern our elections. And any change to that, I've spoken to the Election Commission, and of course the Election Commissioner cannot be here tonight because of other commitments, but that would be their opinion. It's election interference, and that you're trying to propose something that the state already has addressed and has not authorized. As Mr. Kelly says, we're not prohibited from doing it, but we're not authorized to do it also. So it leaves the question open, and as he said, potentially, if this passes, there's going to be litigation. So that's just what we need, is some more litigation against a matter that should not have been passed to begin with. But it sounds like the majority of our council members are going to vote for it. They seem like they all support this. This has got the potential to discourage candidates from filing in Bella Vista. You know, you got to file this extra expense report, extra expense and contribution disclosure. And again, it's not the information. There's no problem with the information with the filing. It's what's done with the information afterwards, and what's been pointed out as what's been done with the information in the past. And anyone that makes a contribution that is not within Mr. Fowler, maybe Mr. Wilms, within their knowledge of who that person is or what that person's intent might be, they're automatically suspicious. So as I've pointed out in the past, my Uncle Joe in Billings, Montana, if he wants to make a contribution to my campaign, he's now become suspect. You know, why is someone in Billings, Montana making a contribution to my campaign? A state senator his integrity was questioned because he made a contribution to a campaign in the last election. A state representative was accused of taking a bribe in the last election. All kinds of innuendo, all kinds of unnecessary, baseless accusations against individuals and their integrity, when there is no facts to support that. Nothing more than just simply a conspiracy theory. And again, it provides nothing more than fodder for the rumor mill. And filing it early before the state required time, that's basically all it does, is just provide more fodder for the rumor mill. And so I would propose that this matter be tabled indefinitely.
Is that a motion?
No.
Yes, sir, that's a motion.
All right, there need to be a second for that motion.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to table item G indefinitely. Motion by Jerry Snow, second by Wendy Hughes, and we'll have a roll call vote.
Well, there needs to be debate on the motion to
Oh,
table.
yes. Is there a debate on the motion?
No, I'm just going to say there were several just plain false comments that were just made. No one questioned anybody's integrity, right? Not at all. This is about filing a report that is public anyway, but is filing it before the early voting starts. And if there wasn't concern over contributions to public officials' campaigns and where that money's coming from, why is there a report in the first place? And I ask myself, right? I don't know. Maybe it's so the public can make up their own mind. I might think one thing, Craig might think another, Wendy might think another. I don't know. I can't control that. It's up to each individual to make up their own mind. But they can't make up their mind if they don't have the information. So we're not changing any state laws at all. All we're doing is moving the time back before the voting actually starts. I don't know why anyone would have a problem with that or an issue with that whatsoever. You can surmise on your own why somebody might have an issue with it. I'm not going to state it. So tabling this indefinitely is really ridiculous, quite frankly. So that's all I've got to say about it.
Jim?
What really hasn't been said here yet, and it's all over the country, people are buying elections. And that's what some people are afraid of. They're going to kick in so much money, you won't be able to overcome it. You see it all over the country, every level of election. What hasn't been spoken is people are going to kick a lot of money in, and they're literally going to buy elections, which you see all over the country. That's the bottom line here. Kicking in so much money, you can literally buy an election. It's been done here once, one time the person won, one time the person lost. But that's the bottom line, buying an election. That's it.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing that I would request is that we keep the rhetoric down to a minimum and kind of stay on track with what the proposal is instead of injecting a lot of personal feelings about it. Everybody up here is reading it, and I don't know how plain English gets read so many different ways, but
Is there something called call the question? We can bring it to a vote right away, Jason? Instead of,
The question is on the motion to table, so
Right.
it's important to keep the debate just to the table.
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
But like he's just saying, what I normally say, I think we've talked enough. Let's just get it done.
The mayor controls the meeting, so he can recognize as many as he wants to recognize.
I didn't say he couldn't.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote. So the motion is to table indefinitely. So yes means you want to table indefinitely. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Hanschel,
no.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
No.
Wilms,
No.
Fowler,
No.
Motion failed, 2-4. So I think we've discussed this, and it's gonna go to second reading. You know, this is up to council. I would like to add one thing myself. Looking at all these options, it seems to me that H is a lot more rational. I think it's up to the county and the state to run elections. It's not up to the city. It would cause us to be an outlier. I don't think there's any city in the whole state who's passed anything like this. And, you know, the head of the municipal league says it's a bad idea, and he's got an awful lot of experience, and I've got a lot of faith in some of the top people at the municipal league. So that's just my opinion. It's up to you guys, and I think it is a good idea just to think about it and let it ride till second reading, perhaps even third. It's up to you, but I think we need to speak about H and I. Okay?
Well, I mean, H is pretty straightforward, right?
He's 3 days.
Yeah, I need to go ahead and read it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Resolution requesting the Arkansas General Assembly modify Arkansas Code annotated 7-6-208 to require campaign contribution and expenditure reports for municipal and local offices be filed prior to the beginning of any early voting period, and further requesting the Arkansas Municipal League incorporate this request into its 2025 legislative package. Wendy?
I love this. I think this is a smart, logical way to go about trying to get this issue solved. I fully support H, and I think this is just a ticket. I'd rather you didn't table it right now. I understand if you'd like to tie it together with G, but I think this is a go, and this is the smart way to go.
Well, I'll listen to, you know, what anyone else has to say, you know, about that. I don't mind, you know, if people want to just go ahead and vote on it, that's fine with me. I just thought that I received from feedback today that that's what, you know, a couple people maybe thought we should do, and I was like, well, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have an issue. You know what, I apologize, your exact comment, Mayor. You have a lot of faith in the people, you know, maybe down in Little Rock. You know, I mean, I know there's the state legislature, and then there's the Arkansas Municipal League. The Municipal League is supposed to work with the legislature, et cetera, and on and on and on. Well, this is something that hasn't been fixed. It's something that hadn't been addressed. It needed to have some light shined on it. I would say there are probably a lot of municipalities in the state of Arkansas that would probably be pretty supportive of this. The fact that I say we, you know, it's being brought forward in Bella Vista, so it's brought forward in Bella Vista. I mean, I don't know how we get a black eye from this, from something that really just makes sense. I mean, I don't think you have to do a lot of thinking about it. So, but if we drop this conversation and if we don't move it forward, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to be convenient for some of our legislators just to ignore and pass on. And, you know, you just kind of sit and latent and be quiet for a while, and you just hope the conversation goes away. So I mean, H, fine, we can vote on it tonight, but as far as pulling the ordinance, at this particular point, I'm not so moved to do. So.
Mr. Mayor, and
Greg?
to reiterate, you know, I didn't vote to table G because I'm ready to approve it. I'm wanting to have a conversation. I want to carry the conversation. I'm interested in seeing what the AG has to say in that regard. I just want to have the conversation and move it forward. You know, and as Councilman Fowler spoke earlier, you know, he was wanting to rework G and H or whatever, and then I. Yeah, but he was receptive to a tabling. But I think it's important that we continue this conversation for the sake of having it. And it's not going to hurt to talk about it. But anyway, that being said, anybody else has any comments?
Larry?
I guess H and I are both one-trick ponies. We don't have 3 readings on that. They're resolutions and not ordinances, so it's a whole different can of worms, if you will, in terms of our legislation at the local level. The resolution, we get one kick at the cat, we approve it or disapprove it. If it's ready to go and everyone feels comfortable with it, we can move forward tonight with a vote, or we can table it until the next meeting, hoping for feedback perhaps from the Attorney General's office. Whether it'll happen that fast or not, I don't know. I think it's a good approach. I think it's a request that will incentivize, if you will, other communities to take note, maybe something they've thought about but not have spoken about, not taken a verbal interest in. There are times when you talk about things locally in 3 or 4 or a dozen communities, when you get to the league meeting, oh, we've been thinking about that, or we've been talking about that issue. So it becomes something that is not unique to Bella Vista, but is commonplace in other areas as well. So I have no issue moving forward with that one.
So I do have a question, if you were done.
I'm done.
So if we would pass this resolution tonight, and it would get, how long before it would get submitted to, like this, I'm just using the term state legislature and also to the Arkansas Municipal League?
Well, that'll be up to the clerk, but I'm sure she could probably get it done pretty quick. I mean,
I'm just
probably
curious,
by the end of
is
the
there a
week, I would
delay or-
assume.
That's a good question.
You know?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for her. She might can answer that question, how long it would take her to send some letters, but, so this is required, actually, let me just make sure everybody understands. This resolution is a request. You're just expressing a desire here with this. You're not legislating anything on this. And you are requesting the city clerk provide a copy to Bella Vista's legislative delegation. So that's going to be the state representatives and state senators that represent this area of the city of Bella Vista, the governor, and the executive director of the Arkansas Municipal League, that's Mark Hayes. And it's just, they'll receive a copy, and I'm sure a little cover letter that says, City Council requests you have this. And it wouldn't take long. But like I said, I'd have to let Wanda say what her schedule is.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, so I was going to table again because I thought that was kind of the direction a couple of people thought we should go. And that's this reason I brought it up. And I'll talk about I in a minute when we get to it. But I mean, if we want to go ahead and move forward with this and put it on people's desk and see if we get any response, then I'm fine with that. Quite frankly, I'd like to hear somebody say, no, they don't support it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Hansel and Mr. Fowler.
Yeah.
Motion, that's a motion to approve, and roll call vote.
Councilmember Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes?
Jones,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and Hanschel.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. The next one is a resolution expressing the opinion of City Council citizens should be highly vigilant regarding the influence of out-of-city campaign contributions during Bella Vista municipal elections. Any discussion?
No, I would just like to say that one, you know, I kind of sat down and reread it, and I went and spoke with Jason this afternoon. I'd like to make a couple changes to it. When I say changes, just kind of taking the edge off of it a little bit, I guess that's the best way that I could say it. It's kind of funny. I don't know if I left it in his office or what, but I don't even have my notes with that resolution on it right now. Did I?
You gave it to me,
you
yeah,
got- okay,
so I could
okay.
fix it.
So, I mean, unless somebody wants to have a conversation, I'd like to make a motion to table.
I'd like to have a conversation.
Okay.
What edge are you taking off? So-
Well, I
so
pass it along to Jason now. So,
I think you have to speak to what your intent is.
yeah. So there was comment tonight in public comment about, making elections a local city council elections making them partisan, which quite frankly, I hope that would fail miserably. I think all local elections need to be nonpartisan, not affiliated with any political party, because that is certainly going to drive decisions that may not be best for the constituents of a city, because there are agendas there. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, Independent, or whatever you are. So I certainly wouldn't go that, but I'm approaching Resolution I as a Bella Vista City Council as a nonpartisan council that represents the constituents of the city. So I'm kind of going down that road. And I think I took out the wording concerning out of town, because in all these, I want people to clearly understand, we're not telling people who are submitting their names for public office that you can't accept any campaign contributions from anyone you choose. You can. Take it from anybody, anywhere. It's just disclosure that you are receiving that money, because there's a lot of PAC money out there, right? Yeah. And other sources, right, from individuals that support certain political or special interest organizations. So anyway, but I took out like out of town.
Okay.
Because I understand you, Wendy. I mean, we had a work session. I listened. It's like, yeah, quite frankly, I've got yours, right? I've got your campaign
Absolutely.
contribution,
I
and
know
everybody else.
everybody's
I look at it and I'm like, well, I don't really see anything here. If I'm a resident, it doesn't matter about what I think personally at all. It's what each individual thinks personally is what's at play here. So anyway, go ahead.
Oh, I do have a question, because I think it was mentioned at the work session that there are hundreds of things that voters need to take in consideration when it comes to ballot measures or candidates on when they're going to the ballot to go vote. Why are we only focusing on this one small chunk of a wide variety of things? It feels a little strange to focus on that. I approve tabling this. But I was wondering if we wanted to have a resolution regarding people being informed, that we make as a whole about all the different issues and not just about their campaign contributions, which is important, but it's not the only important thing we need to consider.
Because I can't cover all topics in a conversation. Now, that's up to the constituents, if you will, to be as informed as they want to be on any particular aspect of people who are submitting their name for office. And I'll tell you, looking where campaign contributions may be received from, I don't know, maybe there's a message there, maybe there's not, but that's up to each individual to decide. Look, we are required to submit these campaign contribution and expenditure reports anyway, right?
Absolutely.
This is just submitting them early and being above board.
Well, this one's not. This one's just.
Well,
this one's
you
just
should be
about-
wary, and that's all I'm saying. You know what? It's a resolution that's proposed. We have 6 members on council, and you can support it or not support it at the end of the day. So, but anyway,
So you're gonna table it?
I
Move to table
I
it?
was waiting to see if
Second.
anybody else had anything to say.
Oh, I was seconding. I don't.
What's the table length on this?
Okay, I would like to table it if it can be done this way, until there is either, like a yes for the ordinance, and then I would propose it then, I can table it till next
I think the
council
way,
meeting if you want.
sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
That's fine.
I think my suggestion would be if you then table it indefinitely, and then when you are ready to move it, then bring another one and put it on the agenda at that time.
Well, yeah, because I'm going to rewrite it anyway.
It's going to be differently
Yeah,
worded
yeah.
anyway, and that way you control the timing of all that on your,
Yeah.
so if
Okay,
you table
like-
indefinitely, it'll go away for now officially, and then it's up to you again when it comes back.
I'd like to make a motion to table the current resolution, as it's written indefinitely.
Second.
That was Mr. Fowler and Mr. Honcho. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
and Hughes.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Resolution adopting a revised planning application fee schedule. Be it resolved by City Council of City of Bella Vista, Arkansas. And this is the fee schedule that Taylor had gone over the other day. I think the change was that you had a particular fee for the PCD, right?
Correct, that's all that's being added.
TBD.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Hanschel and Mr. Wilms. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
and Fowler.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Now for this next resolution, I'd like to point out that Mr. Farner was probably worried his 4-year term would run out before this meeting ended. He's been very patient. He's probably gonna get his revenge at one of these planning commission meetings. Okay. Resolution approving the mayor's reappointment of Doug Farner to the Bella Vista Planning Commission for a 4-year term expiring March 1, 2028.
Motion to approve.
Second.
As Mr. Hanschel and Mr. Fowler.
Just as a side note. Mr. Farner, were you here with the first council or the second one?
First, yeah.
So you've been here since the beginning. That's why you have gray hair. Thank you for your service.
Roll call vote.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
and Snow.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one's a resolution approving the mayor's initial appointments to the Active Transportation Advisory Board. And you folks were able to meet everyone, I think, at the work session.
It's a great group.
Yeah.
They're incredible.
Well, then, I would just request, having served on a lot of commissions and boards myself, would it be okay if we read their names? I think it's important to just kind of list off everybody that's going to be in. This is to me, kind of a monumental moment. I mean, for the city.
I would agree.
This is going to be something that drives the complexion of the trails and, and transportation, for the city. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a big deal. So to everybody that did apply and got voted on and all that stuff, hats off. I mean, that's good luck, and I think it's a great thing. So, but anyway.
Okay. I will read the names. Amy Darpinian, Wendy Taylor, Christopher Stockman, Kenny Williams, Christy Perry, Jonathan Eli, Natasha Brand, and then our two school-age members, Abigail High and Jillian Johnson. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Hanschel and Mr. Fowler. A roll call vote.
Council members Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
I think he went to the little boy's room.
okay, Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Next one is a resolution approving the Bella Vista Advertising and Promotion Commission's appointment of Muriel Garza as an industry position commissioner for an unexpired term ending July 31, 2026, due to the resignation of Don Harris. And you folks were able to meet Muriel Garza at the last meeting also. Could I have a motion to approve?
The only thing I would like to say, just as a FYI to people, that she is a short-term rental owner, her and her husband, and I actually have 3 here in Bella Vista. Really nice young lady. So, like I said, everybody met her last week. And the AMP Commission did approve her officially at our last meeting, so.
Thank you for that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Hanschel and Mr. Wilms. A roll call vote.
Councilmember Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow is absent. Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
and Wilms.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Next one is a resolution amending the 2023 city budget regarding the Mercy Way Bridge construction project. Kim, since you stayed this whole time, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, so it shows on the report like we're short, like, let's just say $600,000, right? Revenue versus expenses. However, some of that money was deposited in 21 and 22, and you're just doing a resolution for 23 specifically.
Specifically just for budget reporting purposes.
Right.
Yeah.
And the reality is that 80% of this theoretically will come from Arkansas DOT grant money, which funds 80% of the eligible project. If they find there's ineligible costs in the $643,000, they'll set that aside. That will become a part of the 20% funded by Walton Family Foundation or by the city, depending on whether there's money there or not. So basically, what we're looking at is we're arrears in getting money back from people who have pledged to pay it, or not pledged to. But
Some of it came in 21 and 22.
yeah, Walton Family Foundation you got in the bank somewhere, and so that's probably not an issue, but the grant funding is always well, are they gonna fund this or not gonna fund it, so.
Our dot funds will come in after we pay.
Right, yeah, we pay the money first and they reimburse us basically if it's eligible. So it's like all projects of this nature.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
That was Mr. Wilms and Mr. Fowler. A roll call vote.
Council members Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Announcements, the next city council work session is 5:30 PM Monday, March 18 at Bella Vista Police Training Room. That's across the hall. Next city council regular meeting, 6 PM Monday, March 25 at Bella Vista District Court. Planning Commission work session, 4:30 PM Thursday, February 29 at Bella Vista District Court. And I wanted to remind council that we were invited to that because there's going to be what was the word for it? Diagnostic report by Friesen Nichols, our consultants.
That's on the 29th, right?
Yeah. Planning Commission regular meeting, 4:30 PM Monday, March 11 at Bella Vista District Court. And Board of Construction Appeals, 3 PM Tuesday, March 12, if needed, at Fire Station Number 4 Conference Room, 1639 Forest Hills Boulevard. So, with that, unless somebody has something else, we're adjourned.
Quick, hit it. Quick. Atta boy.